Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, a space where we peel back the layers, honor the human experience, and explore the systems, stories, and soul work that help us rise into who we are becoming. I'm your host, Lauren Perlingi, and in this space, we are going to get to the root of why you feel stuck, maybe burnout, or maybe out of alignment, and open the doors back to clarity, energy, and a life that matches your soul. And today I have somebody that brings a completely different lens from the human potential, longevity, and performance. Adam. Adam has lived many versions of himself, each one shaped by discipline, reinvention, and deep inner work, which that is the human experience and that we talk about all the time on the podcast, and mind of what you're capable of and using your human mind of what you're capable of. And instead of reading his entire story, I want to give him the space to bring his voice and perspective forward. So, Adam, I'm so happy to have you here with us. And let's start from the beginning. What was your journey into the health and wellness space, and what shaped that to how you live and teach it today?
Well, first of all, Lauren, thank you so much for having me on the show. And that was a glowing introduction. I'm listening. I'm like, oh, who's she introducing? Uh, oh, wow, that's me. Cool. All right, sweet. So, you know, I really think there's a lot of pain and suffering that you have to go through. We want everything to be served to us. I mean, I still to this day, I'm like, why can't it be easier? Why aren't people just handing me millions of dollars and just, me having my reality TV show where my biggest problem is, where I'm going to park my Bentley. It's like that is just so far from reality. And arguably, I don't think you would trade places with anybody. So I think that we each have our own journey and our own story, right? And that sounds very, cute and almost kind of trite, but the reality is that something is going to happen in your life that is like a little spark. It's just a little glimmer. And maybe you won't notice it until you look back on it. But, in 1998, um, I had the idea that I wanted to study martial arts. And I'll give you that backstory, but I'll tell you this. I walked into a martial arts studio, and that moment where I watched and everybody was doing Tai Chi, so which is kind of like not the cool martial art, that's not the martial art where you like break everybody's face and get all bloody in the octagon kind of thing, you know. But I saw all these people moving in unison and they were just breathing, and all you heard was their feet sliding on the floor, maybe a little bit of like their clothes moving, and that everybody kind of breathing together. And I was like, whoa, an experience that I want to have and be a part of. And so that that moment stands out as like that was when it began. My martial arts kind of journey began, and then that allowed me, because it was Tai Chi and not the smash your face in kind of martial arts, it actually had a Chinese medicine component to it. So anybody that's gone very deep into, or even just dabbled with Chinese martial arts, at some point you'll come to, someone will explain to you or say to you, yeah, this is like the moving medicine of Chinese medicine. And then you can learn about the five element theory and the yin yang theory, and how your organ networks work and how all of your acupuncture meridians work and things like that. Just it's a different energetic map of the way our physical bodies and our psychology interacts with our body. So that was kind of the jump off point. And if you'll entertain me, I'll give you the backstory as to how I walked into that martial arts
Sure.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and so again, that martial arts class was almost maybe like the kind of, that was like the peak of a curve that had ramped up slowly, maybe over the course of several years prior. I was 20 years old. Um, I always did what my parents told me to do. And now this might start to resonate with people, right? Because when you're a kid, usually you listen to your folks as much as you can, or that you can tolerate. Uh, and some parents are, some parents are easier than others. My dad was not an easy dad. He was a tough guy. And I think it was for the right reasons. So, um, lots of love to my dad, but the may he rest in peace. But the reality is that you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. You're 18, you're 20, and you could be 35 or 55. If you haven't done the work and you haven't gotten to this crossroads, like it's coming at some point, And I would also wish that every human being could come to that crossroads, because eventually it is the true unplugging of the umbilical cord. It is the true point of jumping off into reality, and that is a reality that is cruel and harsh and painful, but also is where you will grow and you will become something greater than what you are or were. And so I'm 20 years old, and a bunch of guys that I knew in college were going to go to Alaska and work in the salmon industry. And so I said to my folks, "Hey, all my buddies are going to go do this. I really want to go with them." And they were just like, hard no. Like, no. Like, what are you thinking? Like, so they're like, how are you getting there? I'm like, well, I'm going to fly. And they're like, okay, then what happens? I'm like, well, and I think like actually the answer was, we're going to hitchhike to Alaska from Seattle. And my parents were like, oh, this is getting worse. Like they're like, you have no plan. You have no clue what you're going to do. You don't even know who you're staying with. Like, and all these other guys like, yeah, well, we're going to get in a mini, one of those Volkswagen vans. They're going in a Vanagon cross country, and they're going to meet us in Seattle. Like, so I could like either ride in the van, which seemed really off the charts,
Right.
cross country, or I could fly to Seattle. So I basically said, okay, I'm going to take the middle path, which became a theme for my life, but I'm going to kind of spin the story to my parents that it's all planned out. And look, these other guys are driving. They're crazy. I'm the sane one. I'm actually going to fly. And then I had kind of an itinerary mapped out as how I was going to get to Alaska, where we were supposed to meet up and all work on these salmon fishing boats. And so, and I put my foot down. I realized that if I didn't, this is kind of the key thing. If I didn't, I'm 20 years old. My parents, yeah, they pay for college, thankfully, but I'm an adult. I make my own decisions. So if I'm going to listen to everything that they say, just you know, at face value and not question anything, like who am I even becoming? You know, and it doesn't have to be your parents. It could be anything. I mean, it could be. I mean, we're all being fed so much garbage through the media outlets, however whatever you take that in, whatever the algorithm is feeding you, it's like, it's not you have to unplug and plug into yourself and make a decision for yourself, what matters to you. And that doesn't mean all of a sudden the angels come down from heaven and just shower accolades upon you. Like, it does. You made the jump off. As a matter of fact, it's more like the Matrix, where you took whatever was the blue pill, and now you are in real reality, and real reality is a lot harder than being asleep, right? So I go to Alaska. I was reading a book. You take a book with you. It's 1998. There's no phones, right? So you take a book with you, and I read the book Shogun, which is a historic fiction on Japan, feudal Japan. So I learned all about these samurai and this wonderful culture that they had back then. And, there was honor, and there was some Buddhism. And also, I was listening to a lot of Wu-Tang Clan at the time. So it just seemed like I should like do martial arts.
Right.
And so I made that decision while I was in Alaska, while I was, working in this. And I didn't end up being on a boat. I was on a boat, and it just didn't work out because they wanted me to take a semester off of college, and I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't that crazy either. So I had to get back to school. I worked in a salmon cannery, and I worked in a cannery, like it was like 18-hour days, 7 days a week. It was absolutely brutal, but it was an amazing experience. I didn't make a ton of money, but I made enough money to fly back first class, because it was just absolutely so grueling from a physical and mental perspective that I just, wanted to get back to reality the best way possible. And then when I came back to school at Virginia Tech, I walked into a martial arts studio and just said, like, this is the plan. Like, I'm doing this. I walked in and I was just like, mind blown. This is the spot. Let's go. And I really haven't, there has not been an unbroken week of training since 1998.
Wow. Yeah. That's very empowering. And when you speak, and when I'm listening to you speak about your journey, like your health and wellness journey, it didn't just happen overnight. Like I often see these things right now, like on social media. It's like this is what happened, and this is the results that you can get. And I feel like for you, just how well you kind of described your story to us, like it seemed to me that it drew you to discipline, that mastery, and that basically the capacity of like the human body and mind. Can you kind
Mm.
of speak a little bit more about like what initially drew you to that once after you walked into this martial arts studio?
Yeah, of course. And one thing just rings very true in my mind, and that is that I was well on my way to becoming an alcoholic.
Okay.
And I was on my way, and I was, more than experimenting with drugs. So I was, um, not out of control. And you could say, oh, college kid having fun. Yeah, sure, fine. But there's a level of consistency that you get into with the cycle of drinking, smoking pot, trying something else, whatever. And you can say, oh, it's fun, it's cute, again, like it's something that's just a phase. Oh, I did that when I was in college.
Yeah.
But something, I was just aware that it was more frequent than I felt like I could be successful at. It was something like I felt like I needed to change. Something I wanted to get a handle on.
Right.
And when you're doing martial arts, especially in a school, this is, just because it was Tai Chi didn't mean it wasn't like really serious. And the guy that was the teacher, who, I call the old man in the mountains, in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, who out of respect, I will never name him publicly. It also kind of makes that kind of cool martial arts story. Like I have this like secret master in the mountains, but
Right.
he was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I would compare him to, and if anybody, there's only one person that you would be able to make this connection to, but he looked like John Wayne. He literally looked like a giant human being that was like the most rootinest, tootinest, American, proud American that you could possibly meet. Oddly enough, same age as I am now. So like I met him when I was 20, he was 48. And so, uh,
Wow.
it's funny to think that I can't say I'm approaching his prowess from a martial arts perspective. But one of the things that he said was basically like, just promise yourself you're never going to stop training. That's it. Just make a deep promise to yourself that you'll never stop training. And, that stuck for whatever reason. And I don't know if that can be communicated via podcast. Like if you're hearing this, like make a promise to yourself right now that you're going to do something good for yourself today. And then you're going to do that tomorrow. And you're just never going to stop doing that.
Yeah. That's
I don't know
very
if that
powerful.
answers your question.
No, that's very powerful because people listen or they watch or like they're busy, they're driving, they're going to work, like wherever they're listening to this. Sometimes, and I hear this often, people give me a lot of feedback from the podcast, and they're often like, one thing that they heard on the podcast has changed their life, or they can deeply resonate with your story, or just what we're talking about, or just being seen and heard. And I think that
Yeah.
that is the most
Well,
like
and
that.
I will say this, sorry, just to put a button on that, is that little promise. It's the little things. And what I teach now in order to help people change is kind of micro behavior changes, right? And so that little decision that I made, in 1998 or thereabouts thereafter, was that come hell or high water, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep training. And if things get bad, I'm going to train more, and so that has steered me off of the rocks. Um, I would say at this point now, like I never had to become, and I went through periods of complete sobriety. And I'm not a teetotaler. Like, I don't think it's something, I think you can have a healthy relationship with certain social behaviors as long, especially, even if they're chemical in nature that you can get to a good place. I think a lot of times, well, look, if it's a problem and it's damaging you and you cannot get a handle on it, then maybe it is something that you need to, go through a 12-step program and literally like do not touch it because you just don't, it doesn't work well with you. Um, that's not the case for me. I really just, and one of the things philosophically that I've also kind of bought into is this idea of being a deeply spiritual person that lives within society. So, in other words, not being so spiritual that you disconnect, um, and just be like, I'm only spiritual. I only think about God. I only think about, going to my meditation or doing whatever, like, essentially becoming a monk and moving to the mountains. And and anybody that does that is doing that out of a deep need and a deep desire to maybe serve humanity. And like without monks, like we don't have people to look, or without, potentially clergy members, all the good versions of clergy members, we don't have a symbol of what the highest form of that spiritual tradition could be. At the same time, I would argue it's kind of like they talk about the hand pointing at the moon. That's a Buddhist concept. Like Buddhism is the hand pointing at the moon. Don't look so close at the hand that you actually miss the moon.
Right.
You're trying to experience reality. You're trying to be present. You're trying to, um, be fully awake. And so, kind of, and so that's my point. That's all I wanted to say is that at no point in time did I expect to achieve some level of perfection, or that all of my pain goes away, or that I don't suffer, or I don't make mistakes. And the past 5 years have been probably some of the most challenging, intense years of my life, just due to the way the pandemic kind of turned everything upside down.
Yeah, I think everybody on some way can resonate with that too. And going back to what you said about the the one thing that sticks out to me lately is when I hear people say, not just when I'm talking to people or if it's like a client or a friend, that they're always trying to, like, they're not really understanding the point of the human experience because
Hmm.
we do suffer. It's like part of that. We're supposed to feel our emotions. We're not supposed to suppress them. However, like we're supposed to feel them, heal them, release them. And
Yeah.
I think that, again, depending on where you are in your journey, you know, I know that my parents did the best they could. I'm 36.
Sure.
So they did the best they could do. And it's kind of like it reverts back to it's simply two things. It's either you're a victor of what you're going through, or it's like that victim. And then you get to decide and choose where you're going to be. And I feel like there's a lot of victim mentality, like it's of like looking
Sure.
for me, but I feel like you have to go through that to get through, like, how can I look at this like with gratitude, or how can I look at like what is this lesson teaching me? And I feel like more and more and more, I feel like those core identity patterns or shifts or behaviors are literally what I don't think people realize are like holding them back to, like, you are blocking you. It's
Yeah.
not the person down the street. It's not your teacher. It's not your boyfriend that broke your heart in fifth grade. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
things and experiences. And it's like huge when it comes to experience. Cause like that's actually, I mean, would you not agree that we're supposed to do? We're supposed to experience things. And if we didn't have, even if we're doing all the right things, like physically, like from your perspective, like what are some of the core identity like patterns or like behaviors that are holding high achievers back, high performers back, entrepreneurs back? Like what do you see in what you do every day?
Great question. And one of the things that I've recently started to explore and tap into, and it's something I've always been intrigued by and interested in, and have had some exposure to, and that is primal archetypal work. So, Jungian archetypal analysis. It's easy or fun to get into, like, oh, it's the hero's journey. We're all heroes in our own story, and we have to become the hero, and we have to go, down into the cave and slay the dragon. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But it's a little more complicated than that.
Right.
And and I'm no expert at dream analysis, and I don't necessarily I wouldn't bring that into my fitness practice or wellness practice, um, without, I think that's a more of a specialist or a specialty, somebody that actually has spent years and years doing that. However, that being said, I would encourage people to even just take a dream that you had, especially an intense dream, and write it down or dictate it into your favorite AI, right? I use ChatGPT. So you put it in ChatGPT and you say, here's my dream. I was in the middle of a football field and aliens came down. I don't know, making it up, right? And the aliens were they already had my sister. I don't know, just make something up, but right. So
Yeah.
um so you know you just put that into ChatGPT and say, give me a Jungian, as in Carl Jung, dream analysis of this. And it'll be fascinating because it'll tell you about, how this is your subconscious mind laying all these things out for you to consider. And I think a lot of times, our dreams are just kind of dismissed as, oh, that was odd or that was weird. And you forget them, most of them, and it's not like, or, it might be something that's like, oh yeah, I was worried about, I forgot to take the trash out and I had a dream about taking the trash out. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge metaphor, but the Jungian dreams, the Jungian dream analysis, which is a clinical thing, like that is a clinical thing. Um, will highlight different archetypes, and what you'll find is one very cool thing is that most of the people in your dream, or the people in your dreams, aren't actually different people. They're versions of yourself, because essentially within the dream world, it's all you trying. And again, that's like, we're all one, right? So Lauren and Adam are very different people. But if I had a dream about you, it's not that, oh, Lauren is trying to tell me something or contact me. It's what part of me is like Lauren, for better or for worse, right? And what part of me is, the teacher or the provider or the magician, or this person who's showing up, in a genuine way for other people. And it's like, that is what the analysis would give you. So I know, sorry, that was a little bit of a caveat sidebar there, but like,
No.
I think that's the type of stuff that I think is leaving a lot on the table from a health and wellness perspective, because, health and wellness, a lot of it is like, okay, so you smoke cigarettes. Let's, go through the trans theoretical model of behavior change, which says first we need to get you into a state of awareness. Then we're going to go into pre-contemplation, then contemplation, then action, and then review, right? So we're going to go through this cycle of breaking and changing this habit, and the person who doesn't even want to think about it, like, that's the end of it. Like, there's no other conversation. Like, you can't make people change that don't want to change. But I think that this these access points, again, like a dream analysis, could also be a way to tap in there. And um another thing is also, just to kind of throw it out there, is like, when you participate in other things, for example, martial arts, you change your clothes, you go into this other place, you behave a different way. It then gives you a resultant feeling, uh, behavior pattern. Everything kind of changes because of this decision that you made to go in and kind of behave as it's a different archetype. So now you're the martial artist, right? So
Right.
how are there ways that you could then do that in your life? Find other roles. What roles are you playing that are not serving you?
Right. Yeah. Going back to, I feel like going back to the dream, like the dream, and I feel like I want you to talk a little bit more about like dreams, because I have had, or I do have people that will message me and be like, Lauren, hey Lauren, I had this dream. What does it mean? Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Where does it say? Am I like, wherever, I'm a dream interpreter, but like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just, for me, intuitively, like, I will get messages, I will get like random, just like off the wall random, I'll like wake up and be like, what was that? Like, was that real? Like, just I'll see people's faces, or,
Mm,
like I'm supposed to deliver a message or whatever it is. And,
mm,
also dreaming. So I always write down my dreams. And I don't necessarily think that I ever really know like what it is. Maybe I ask something sometimes, like before I go to sleep, I'll ask my higher self something, like
mhm, mhm.
I need the answer to this. Should I do this? Or like, show me this. Or maybe I'm like asking during the day or whatever. And then it always hits me that usually it's people that like will message me or will ask me things. Oh, that's who I need to like reach out to. And it's just interesting how the way that you kind of said it, it's not always, I feel like a lot of people think, especially if they're going through like a challenging time right now, I think
Yeah,
us at some point on some level are,
yeah,
we always are like, our minds are like wired to think of it like as a bad thing. So can you kind of speak on like how it can actually be a positive thing of like you asking for help, you're asking for this, you're asking for this, like, and your dreams are actually revealing the answer. And I don't think
Hmm.
people realize that, right?
Yes, I think that there are. Well, so again, it's a little bit more complicated than that because I don't think you're always necessarily getting. You're always going to get answers. You can always get insight if you
Right. Insight.
choose to. Yes, you can always get insight if you choose to do the dream analysis from the Jungian perspective. And I mean, maybe there's probably a dozen different ways you can interpret things.
Yeah.
I have some app on my phone that's like, if you dream about a snake, it means you're going to be rich. It's like that's not what I'm talking about. Like that's
Yeah.
absolutely not what I'm talking about. It's not like this like hokey, just like symbolic thing. Like snakes represent this, spiders represent this. And it's not that. It's more um you know, what was your emotion about the thing that you saw? What was the feature about it that stuck out the most? Like I dreamed about this snake and it had this amazing skin and I really was, fascinated about how beautiful it was, right? That would probably tell you something far more different than and deep than being like, oh, it was a snake and snakes are good luck or something like that. Like that's so silly comparative to what you would get from a true dream analysis. Um, but again, I think that what you're trying to do, what's happening is you and I are having a conversation right now. The subconscious mind is always working. The subconscious mind is all you can feed it stuff and then you can have it perform and do tricks. And like in the most fascinating fundamental way. And I mean, literally, this is what my challenge would be to anybody listening would be like, can you talk about unplugging the umbilical? This is like, I don't know what level this is, but this is where I'm at, um, hold on to the steering wheel, gently and don't let go. I can't remember what song that comes from, but hold on loosely and don't let go. Right. Just hold on to the steering wheel, keep the car on the road, keep it on the tracks and let it happen. Let it all happen because so many times, fear will creep in and will try to tell you to steer, like pull over, turn around, go back the other way. Like no, 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 right? And what you realize is there's going to be, that's where you're going to really get pushed by the universe as to see what you're made of. And so, you know, and it involves, like how do I say this in a kind of a politically friendly kind of way? It'll involve people that like, and trust, viewing you in a different way, maybe even viewing you as somebody that is now unreliable, potentially weird or different. Um, they may not return your phone calls, and you have to be okay with that. And that could be friends, that could be family, and it stinks. It really stinks. But the thing is, you're not going to find out what it's all about if you don't go through that. And I'm not talking about being a jerk. I'm talking about being open, loving, receptive, reaching, really trying to do your best in every way that you possibly can. But at the same time, like there's a limit. Like I could just go absolutely crazy about, you know, getting more followers on social media. I could just go crazy about that. oh my God, I'm 48 years old and I don't have 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Right.
I could go, I should have done this 20 years ago. When it came out, I should have been the first mover in it. I'd be rich
Yeah.
now. I'd have all the followers, right? Like, are you, like, no, no. I ran a brick and mortar business in Manhattan for 13 years that involved handshakes, face to face interaction. Hey, Lauren, you're having a great time training here. You're making a lot of progress, having a lot of fun. Who are your friends? Tell your friends. And you go, oh yeah, duh, I got these, friends at work. I'll bring them in. And next thing you know, there's 5 or 6 new clients in there because of Lauren, right? We
Right.
didn't, if I put something on social media, even to this day, it's like, what is what does it do? I don't get any type of feedback. What I get from speaking with you is I get a wonderful conversation. I get to see another human being. I get to have a connection, you
Right.
know, and I still don't see that from social media. The little hearts and the little emojis don't register for me. I mean, I'm sure there's some dopamine hit, like, yeah, I like it. Oh, cool. I got somebody like my stuff. Wow.
Right.
But it's definitely not the same. And I feel like the other thing was I did a lot of acting work. I've been in over 70 television commercials. I booked a ton of work. I booked a ton of work.
You're famous. What
Um,
are you talking about?
what's that?
I'm like, you're famous. Oh my God, we have a famous person on the podcast.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, so like, online spokesperson for MasterCard, Papa John's Pizza, oddly enough, and Domino's Pizza. They don't seem to have exclusivity with your pizza delivery guys or pizza commercials.
Now I'm gonna
Uh,
have to go look up these commercials and be like, I had him on my podcast.
I'll tell you what, the best one is I was in a Selsun Blue commercial and I got to do the shampoo of the hair thing.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Bud and Miller Lite and and on and on and on. And so like um those those things were all attained in a world where uh a talent manager or an agent got me a casting and I went to the casting and booked it based on the preparation and the what I brought in through the door that I had worked on, like
Right.
the skills that I had to do that. And oddly enough, those skills, I mean, I guess it's the same skills you can have if you're going to do, do some social media stuff. But to me, it always felt like so, and again, this is my own head trash that I have to work through. This is like what I'm working through as far as like trying to build a business. I have to use those same skills of acting essentially to get in front of the camera for my own company. But I feel like, oh my God, I'm shilling something. Like I'm literally like, I want to like gag myself because I'm like, hey, check it out. Like, who wants to get some hot fitness from my company? And it's just like, and
Right.
people are like, you should be that guy. And I'd be like, I don't know, that guy's kind of a tool. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's finding that version of yourself. This is a vent. This is a rant right here. But it's like the key is to find that version of yourself, and the way you find that version of yourself is by doing thousands and thousands of iterations. Again, the way that I find that I do that best is in long form and talking. And also, I've also did stand-up comedy, by the way. That was like what got me the commercials was me doing stand-up. So I did stand-up all the way up until 2020. 2020, again, derailed everything so significantly. I am kind of like, that's why I'm into the podcast thing right now, because I feel like I actually can talk to people. We
Right.
have some fun. It's
Yeah.
real, you
Yeah.
know, and then it's like, oh, well, then maybe I should start my own podcast. And I'm like, oh my God, I got another thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, as I seen your form come through, obviously, I was going to ask you to talk about, your, comedy journey because I think there is a few people that I know that are really good at podcasting. And one calls herself an ex comedian.
Mm,
She talked through her whole comedian journey. She talked about her, like her story, like
Yeah.
made fun of herself through addiction. And, she was a meth head. Literally, that's what she called herself. Like different stuff like
Wow.
that, like she can come from that place of like dark humor, which I mean, I get it too. And I feel like that's kind of like where I go to, that dark humor of like
Yes.
not making fun of myself, but making fun of myself because I'm so
Yes.
aware of like, what the hell was I doing? Like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that time, and like people are like, oh, you just like make fun of yourself. And I'm like, well, it's because it's not making fun of myself. Like I'm aware of that. Like it's a different type of humor.
Well,
You get it.
I'll tell you right now. I mean, one of the main tenets of comedy, like if you're going to put this in the comedy Bible, is when we laugh, we cheapen life and
Yeah.
also simultaneously eliminate our fear of death.
Yeah.
And so that became, like that's kind of like that's like the underlying operating system. Another one for me, it's like one, never stop training, skip one day, lose 10. I'd put that on the list there too, is that uh, you know, laughter's the best medicine. Laughter eliminates all of this, the futility of life. I actually told ChatGPT to like, there's like a snarky mode you can put it on where it like talks smack to you. Like every time you ask it a question, it's like, okay, cowboy, like you think you're tough or badass or whatever. Like he's like, it's like, I'm like, dude, like back off, like leave me alone. But
Yeah.
like, I was literally in Home Depot trying to find the right kind of spray foam, and I took a picture of the wall in Home Depot and the I put it in. I said, "Can you help me find the right spray foam?" And it says, "Yeah, something along the lines of like, let's get you out of Home Depot purgatory, before you realize that you're how futile your life is, or something like that." It's like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is amazing. Yes, I have the futility of life standing in a Home Depot trying to find spray foam. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous and silly, and it nailed it. I literally cracked up in Home Depot. It's like, okay, all right, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and so comedy, So if we go back to 1998, going into the martial arts studio, I go in there. I'm an engineering student. I'm in Virginia Tech studying engineering, and I realized too far into the program that like there just really wasn't much redeeming value in engineering for me. I needed something like the humanities or the arts or something, some history, something in there to kind of make me, fully flesh out my education. And I was, partying a lot. And so as a result, like I didn't really have a way to go back. I had to go forward. So the way out was the way through. So that's where martial arts became like, okay, I'm going to do this other thing. It's like cool. It's for me and for me only. And it did help me actually dial in on doing my studies and getting through school. So it helped me get my engineering degree, which was awesome. But along those lines, one of the things that whether it's the martial arts master or the philosophy master or the Buddhist master would be is that they embody this archetype of the comedian. And so what it is like, it would be like, the teacher says to the student, what's the sound of one hand slapping? And the student's like, oh, go, or one hand clapping or whatever, or what's the sound? Does a tree fall in the woods and make a sound? Some kind of thing that makes them think about their reality. And there really is no answer. The answer is how much have they thought about it and how deeply and fully can they answer the question, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of games and stuff like and there's like it's like weird tests and stuff that don't necessarily you know um matter in the grand scheme of things, and it doesn't necessarily prove that you're spiritual or that you've attained enlightenment or something like that. But one of the things that these guys would do is they would basically ask them the question as soon as the students started contemplating it and like going into their mind, they would haul off and smack them in the face.
Oh,
And
wow.
basically yeah, and basically it was like it's like, there you go, you're enlightened. like like wake
Right.
up. Wake up. Like it's not about like, oh, let me see the sound of if a tree falls in the woods. Oh, there's a tree and I'm in the woods. Hey, wake up.
Right.
Stop going into your head about all this stuff, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Can you kind of speak a little bit about, and I say this, it's so interesting because my husband had asked me this probably like last week and the week before. He goes, Lauren, what's the definition of enlightenment? And I was like, what? I don't know. Google it. I don't know. I mean, we all have different perspectives.
Yeah,
And so, like he told me his, and I was like, for me, I was like, well, and this like a side story is like,
sure.
even though there's these monks and these, like these gurus and like, whatever they call themselves, right?
Yeah.
There is a purpose that they have, right? Like they have, like, sure, if they want to sit on a mountain and meditate all the time, but at the end of the day, they're still human, right? They still
Hmm.
have an ego. So
Hmm.
when people talk about enlightened and I want to be more enlightened, can you kind of tell us like your perspective on like what enlightenment really truly is?
Great question. I just pause to kind of let that sink in. It's it's one of those things that I think as soon as you think that you are getting there, you're probably about to take a fall. It's like one of these things that you don't attain, right? But you attain you there are stages, right? You could speak to somebody, like or I do some work in New York City. I'm in my home in Connecticut today, but I do some work in New York City, and sometimes there'll be a lot of traffic, and eventually you hear somebody that like gets on the horn and just leaves the horn on, and I mean it's literally like, and I won't make the sound, but like it's still going and it's still going and it's still going and it's still
Yeah,
going. You're like, oh wow, that person has lost their mind. Like they're completely
right.
insane right now because they're just thinking that that's going to help, and it's not. It's just making a ton of noise. So, you know, I can't say that I've never done that, but I can definitely say I wouldn't do that now. Do you
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, am I more enlightened than that person in that car? In for the moment, yes. Is there something that could drive me to that point? Um, my kids do test me. Like, you didn't think you thought you were like here and very zen and like have it all together and very, very om. And two people that will not put their shoes on to leave the house after being asked, no short of 50 times will push you to the brink of sanity.
Right.
So I don't know if you have kids, but it's
I do.
apparently this is what they do.
Yeah, I have my daughter will be 6 in a couple weeks.
Oh,
So,
amazing,
uh,
amazing.
so boundaries, speaking about like boundaries, yeah, that is
And
something
I
that,
didn't answer your question to enlightenment, but I think it really that it is. There are some levels. I guess I did answer it, but
yeah,
just just know. I wanted to give you one like concise thing. Just know that enlightenment is something that's really nice to have. It's for the moment, and then it's literally like because you'll be aware. You'll be like, oh wow, I behaved differently. I actually did a good thing. I didn't blow up or get angry or have misemotion, right? Like I actually handled that differently, and especially like when I look at, kind of a lot of times it's family that really will like set you off. And if you can get to that point where you are really able to care for the people and think about them first, again, it's like it's said a million times over in the Course in Miracles, which if you haven't taken that trip, you should, because ultimately I think it's basically like this: intrinsically at the deepest level, I am totally fine and totally okay. And there is nothing that can hurt me. There's nothing bad in this world that can happen short of death that wouldn't give me, a new perspective or something like that. I mean, it's super intense, but
yeah,
and yes, if some really negative shit happened to me, I would say, I need help. I am suffering. But on the average day, you and I, we are blessed. We are lucky. Okay. So to go around and go, poor me, my business isn't as profitable as it should be. I don't have enough followers. Like, I
right.
like, let's just like throw yourself off a cliff then. Like, be gone. Like, that's so sad. You know what I mean? Like, no, if you are so freaking blessed, operate from the point that maybe somebody else out there is suffering. Somebody
Right.
else out there needs your help, right? And if it's all about me, poor me, then I'm missing the opportunity of connecting and helping all these other people, right? So I'm good. I am totally good. And you can get that in an instant. You don't need to spend 30 years meditating. You can get that right now. Are you good? Does someone have a knife to your throat right now? They don't. Hey, guess what? That's pretty awesome. You're alive. You have
Right.
an opportunity to do some good today, either for yourself or your family or somebody else.
Right.
And if you really are like hurting, then like find some, let's talk about that. Let's get you good,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
you on the side of the team that's trying to, keep this world from, engaging in all the nasty stuff that's out there.
Right. Yeah. Being
Sorry.
that light, yeah, like it's true. Like I feel like through my whole life, my mom and dad tried to shelter me. And it's like, I always say this, and it's funny, like when I'm on my like podcast or on the podcast, like I feel like I was always aware. Like I came out aware of like, where did
Sure.
I land here? What did I choose this for? Oh God. Like it was
Nice.
like that type of like funny, like, I know I chose this. I know I chose this. I know I chose these lessons. I know I chose, in the, I feel like now looking back on like my whole life that I've lived so far, and I always ask this question to people too is, somebody said, I said, oh, you should make a video, or I was just suggesting something like for her to do something different. And she was like, I would rather die than make a video. And I was like, really? So then here's me Googling, why do people, why are the statistics higher that they would rather die than speak on stage or rather,
Right.
and I'm like, this is really a thing. Here's me not thinking it's a thing,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
so fluid of I got on stage, yes, I'm scared. I was scared. It was something new. Like I've never done it before, but I just
Mm.
did it. And it was like, oh, that's not so bad. And then, or talking to other people that are, motivational speakers or getting on stage. And I'm like
Yeah, yeah.
asking them, do you get scared every time you get on stage? Like you do this all the time. Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
human. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, this is like a normal feeling. Okay, good. So like, but going back to like that very dramatic, I would rather this. I then ask them the question of like, do you ever remember of non-existing? Like, you know, pausing to actually like answer that. They're like, no. I'm like, so maybe you're always existing. Like, do you ever remember when you die? No, I don't. Like, I've had near death experiences, like three different ones. So I had
Wow.
those very, very, after being declared gone for 3 minutes, I remember I seen my body
Wow.
here, but it wasn't my time. So I came back, it's
Amazing.
those moments, but that's just how much it matters. People matter to me. This matters to me. Like this lifetime matters, because of
Awesome.
those very small dramatic moments. So I know that you
Awesome.
talk about the small direction shifts,
Yeah.
like can you give like an example, or maybe if somebody like a listener maybe is feeling stuck in that gap between like where they are and like where they want to be, like what's one maybe and you probably told us this earlier, but like what's one like perception or reframe, I should say, perspective shift that could help them like reconnect to like the possibility of what they want.
So, first of all, I would ask this person, I would say, can we really look at what it is that's bugging you or getting you stuck? Because I think the thing that I jump to, and I have a couple answers that I wanted to jump to, but I would first and foremost, is this something that is is it a physical ailment? Is it a relationship thing? Is it a personal um behavioral attitude kind of thing? And the only reason I say that is because I think that just a blanket answer out the gate would potentially miss or overlook just looking at those kind of factors, right? And this is kind of how I've broken down my system into four different phases. One is called alignment. The other second is physical vitality. The third is psychological, social, spiritual connection. And the fourth quadrant is tradition and legacy. And this is very much like kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or kind of you kind of go through this, wheel, if you will, over and over again. And to use a Tony Robbins concept, he basically said your life is like a wheel that's got spokes on it, and each one of the spokes are the different categories in your life. And to the degree that each one of those spokes is kind of tuned up, or it is the same length, or at least full, then the wheel spins nice and fast and you get to do a lot of fun stuff. But if you have missing spokes, or dented or broken spokes, or think something that isn't fully charged or powered up, then you have this pizza pie wheel that's got dents and holes and missing slices in it, and it just like bangs along and doesn't go so well, right? So one of the things, so I would say, if it's an alignment thing, a personal alignment thing, I call this your alignment operating system. Looking at your mission, your core values, your why, your vision for your life, the goals that you have, the things that you're working on, the level of accountability that you have. Those type of things are all great. If it's the physical, those things are great to investigate. I'm going to come back to it. If it's physical, you can change your life just simply by getting the right amount of sleep. And so getting some sort of sleep tracker, getting right with your sleep is literally a superpower. Any age of your life, whether you're a child or an adult, we're so weirdly sleep deprived in our culture now. And with the screens, everything keeps us up and overstimulates us, but there's sleep, nutrition, just getting your steps in. Your phone will tell you how many steps you got in today. I mean, if you're not getting over 8,000 steps every day, it's definitely something for concern. So little things like that. And then the psychological, social, spiritual connection is like, how do you connect with yourself? How do you connect with your intimate relationships, your immediate family, the people that you love? They don't have to necessarily be even biological family. It's just like the people that are in your inner circle. Then it's like your tribe, the groups of people that you interact with, your work, other people that are out there, humanity at large. Being on that horn in the middle of traffic, just like hating everybody that's in front of you. Like nobody wants to hear that, and it doesn't serve anybody any purpose. But it's like, how do you care? How do you feel about the other people? That you don't know, humanity. And kind of it expands outwards from you, from the center out. And then the traditions and the legacy kind of thing is like, what are you building into your life that is kind of allows you to renew and kind of sharpen the sword, as they say, and leave something behind, or build something within your family that is that it's like, oh, we always think about great grandfather Adam. He put all these things into place, and now this is just how we do it in our family, and we've got a family crest, and we're very proud to be Shooties, and this is if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have all this abundance that we have today, because he started all these traditions. So that encompasses a lot of things. My first answer that I wanted to give you, which would just be a very prescriptive answer, it's not for everybody, but would be to get the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And The Artist's Way is a book that describes in graphic detail how to journal, and to journal in a way that is as in it's therapeutic psychologically. And so anytime I'm stuck, anytime I need to, things aren't happening, or I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm really getting into some negative thought patterns, and I'm not really, I'm better than this. Like, what's going on? Like, why am I not feeling dialed in? I apply the methodology in that book, which is to write 3 pages stream of consciousness into a journal, and with no judgment. And so what's happening is you're doing a couple things. One, you're physically doing something. You're physically writing, right? So you have to be in the moment to do that. In order for me to write Substack on this piece of paper, I have to look at the paper and write it. I literally have to be holding the pen and I have to be doing it. So
Right.
now if I'm taking the thoughts in my brain, not just, a to-do list item, and I'm saying, what is the thought that I'm thinking right now? I'm thinking I'm on a podcast, I'm talking to Lauren, da da da, and I'm writing stream of consciousness. What
Right.
eventually happens is you take the thoughts and all the thinking stuff out of your head, and just like that slap in the face, wake up, and you put it out onto the page. Now it's not banging around and clattering around in your head, and you literally have this uh, mind dump onto the page. And sometimes, and I've had pages where I've written explicatives over half the page, just 'cause I'm so angry, you know. But you get it out, and then at the end, you realize you're like, oh, this is so funny and silly. Like, why was I so mad? You know. But you got it out. And look, and if you have that much anger and you're trying to get things out, and I mean, this is like a spot treatment, get some therapy, talk to somebody that's a professional that can help you get through those type of things. I mean, like that's really the other end of the spectrum, is to have, if it's a clinical thing and you need somebody that's going to be able to actually, you know, uh, talk you off the ledge, so to speak, and get you into a better place where you can understand that life is worth living in. And this is, life is a happy place, and there's some really fun stuff that you can do. And this depression and this weight and everything that you're carrying is not necessary. Writing 3 pages, I'm not going to even pretend to think that writing 3 pages in a journal is going to get you out of that. But that being said, I think it has been a supremely transformative and powerful thing that I have in my life, that in addition to therapy, in addition to going through, hundreds of hours of therapy, and kind of getting to the point where I said, you know what, I'm good. I'm good. I like, I'm not going to sit in this chair anymore and talk about the same things. Um, but talking about those things for many, many iterations was extremely beneficial for me and allowed me to get to a place of clarity where I could say, okay, actually, thank you. Thank you. Right. We say thank you until we have to say no, thank you for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. That's a powerful thing. And I think the people listening are going to understand that. It's more of like you have to say thank you. That's the gratitude piece, right? But you can also say no thank you. Like that's part of that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Understanding, boundaries, understanding what you want for yourself. And yeah, some people tell me that I've heard, a couple people the last couple weeks have said that my podcast, actually just listening to my podcast, um, is more therapeutic than listening to their therapist tell them what they need to redo again. And I get it. Talk therapy worked for me until it didn't work. Just like I say, okay, this works now until it doesn't. Then do something else.
Yeah.
Like it will work until it doesn't work. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I
um,
do think that 3 pages of journaling is fascinating and fantastic. And there's a time where I was very, very diligent with it. And I was like, I'm going to do this every day. And, it makes my life better. And then what I end up finding out is that actually, after I've done it for a few days back to back, usually all the head trash is a lot quieter.
yeah,
And I'll sit down to write, and maybe I'll write a page or even half a page. And I'm like, no, what I really need to do is I really need to, like, do that copy for my website, because I'm really excited and I want to, get this communication out, or send that email, and then I'm just in the flow and I'm in action and I'm doing things. And so, like,
right.
that's where you want to be, And so I feel like if I need the 3 pages, I will write the 3 pages, you know.
Yeah, but that's a powerful nugget and tangible nugget for the listeners of like a lot of entrepreneurs that listen or that are listening to this are entrepreneurs. And the reason why they don't do what they need to do is because of fear of being stuck. And if they could just simply use your tool of like writing the shit that's in their head down and look at it and be like, oh, that's so silly. And then like actually get it out and then go do what they need to do. Like if it is making that video, if it is messaging that person that they told whatever, making copy, making a YouTube video, or, like that's when people reach out to me, clients, whoever, of like, what are you doing? Like, what is one tangible thing that you've done today? And it's usually
Mhm.
nothing. Okay, well then go do that. go do that one thing and then come back and message me. Usually it's clients, but like, or like, I need help when I have all this stuff to do. I'm like, okay, pick one thing. I'm a big advocate of like one thing. Because if not, then you're going to tell me you're too overwhelmed. And then you're going to get into this cycle. And then we're going to be back here. And I'm very, very gently, and this is just a very
Sure.
rude comment of like, but I'm very gentle. It's your ego. Like I'm very gentle with it. However, I'm not the I'm not the mentor that is going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be the one to be like, go do it. You know what I mean? You need to go do this.
Yeah.
Telling me this is what you want. So go do it. So I think that that's probably exactly how you operate too.
Oh, great. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's good
Yeah.
coaching. That's
Yeah.
absolutely good coaching. We
Yeah.
all need that. We all need that. Like yeah, I mean I love working with coaches, and I go in and out of different phases of where I hire people um to teach me something, and I spend tens of thousands of dollars almost every year on my own personal development.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. I took a health and wellness coaching course from Harvard Medical School this year.
Right.
And it doesn't mean I like have a degree from Harvard. It was just like one of their,
Right.
continuing
Right.
education courses, but it was great. It was and it was also very encouraging because all right, not only do I get to put the Harvard logo on my LinkedIn or whatever, I like
Yeah.
can and
Yeah.
say I took a course there, which I did, and I worked, and the professors were all Harvard professors, so it wasn't like a diluted, impractical, thing. It was a real health and wellness coaching certification. But the other thing that was great was that it was I already knew most of it. It was good. It was like, okay, cool. Like I didn't. If anything, I'll give you this. This was the this was the only thing that I learned that I felt like actually worth the whole course, and that was parasympathetic breathing.
Yes.
And so when you go to me, of course, and so, what it was the cool idea was that at least the concept was you're going to do not only going to teach this to your clients to help them down regulate and kind of deal with reality, deal with life.
Yeah.
Anytime you meet with somebody, you should do this for yourself so that you prep more for how you're going to interact with them. You become more receptive when you just simply take a really deep breath, any type of box breathing, 4 in, hold for 4, out for 4, or in for 8, out for 8. Any type of controlling of your breathing automatically has a resultant tuning of your nervous system and a down regulation of your nervous system. And so you take that deep breath, and all of a sudden your voice changes, you calm down a little bit, you start to become a little bit more present, you realize, okay, wait, I'm good, how can I help you, right? And
Right.
you get in that zone, and it's
Yeah.
totally different. I was like, oh man, that is some ninja stuff right there. That is like some high level. And I already, there's like intuitive things that you do, and maybe you've heard that from somebody else, but again, when you hear it, and it was like a lot of the a lot of the coaching course was on that, and I was like, okay, we're spending a lot of time on breathing, maybe this is important.
It's yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it finally like stuck with me because everything I do is breathing, like do Tai Chi. Like I'm always like breathing, moving breath, all this, So like to have
Yeah.
it be then presented again, hearing the same thing again in a different context, it's like all of a sudden you're like mind blown. Wow.
Yeah. And now you just saying that, and I'm listening to you say that, it's huge. Every part of my life, I could breathe deeper, like I could, before I get frustrated with my daughter, I could just breathe without that frustration. Or before I asked, like you said, I asked you 6,000 times to do something because you have to get to school and you cannot be late or mommy gets in trouble. I understand that you don't understand the concept of time, but like put your shoes on and I could just breathe and be gentler, whatever
Yeah,
that.
I've actually, yeah, and what I've gotten to the point is if I'm operating in my integrity, then I take that deep breath, and then I just simply grab the shoes and put them on their feet, and then put them in the car.
Yes. Yeah.
The
That's
conversation is over.
yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
are not capable of following directions,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm not going to yell, and I'm not going to lose my shit. So I'm going to just basically be like, okay, here we go. I've got two little animals that need to be corralled and put into the car.
Yeah. That, yeah, no, that's exactly. And I came from a family of yellers, and
Mm.
it's been a very interesting journey to my daughter speaking now, saying, "Mommy," I mean, I've shifted this the last couple, like the last year, I should say, if I'm being completely honest. But she now is not used to me yelling, but she'll wait to that moment that I walk away. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. Like, state a boundary of like, you're not speaking that way or whatever it is in that moment. And then she's like chasing me. I'm like, no, mommy needs a second. Mommy needs a second. Like she's starting to realize, oh, mommy has boundaries and I don't like them. Like that
Oh,
type of
I
thing.
like that. That's great. Yeah,
And
good for you. Yeah, we
yeah,
and we need to still work on that out in our house for sure. I mean, not to
yeah,
so much. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can establish that stuff across the board.
yeah,
The home is the training ground for a lot of this stuff because again, your family will get under your skin faster than most, and you also got to live with them. So you're not getting rid of them. So
right.
if you can
Yeah.
try, and
So
if you can
I
try
feel
to,
like that, yeah, that I feel like anybody could all of us can breathe. You don't need to have a certification. You don't need to know how to breathe. Like, well, obviously if you join box breathing, you probably should probably figure that out, but or how to do it. But I feel like that is important to breathe.
yeah, no, and it's and look, it's the information is ubiquitous. The information is everywhere.
Yeah.
There's not a lack of your ability to put what you need to do at your fingertips. And again, this is why I do what I do because I actually don't. I think as long as it isn't curated and you're just getting it from this like machine gun approach from all these other sources, and I think that the AI is amazing because AI is able to aggregate a lot of things. But then it also has become this. It's like it's already its own thing, and it's going to evolve and it'll change. But it's already like you get all of this gobbledygook just like dumped on you, and it's like, and hey, how about this? Would you like me to set up a box breathing, one pager so that you can print it out and put it in front of your screen? And it's like, I I, I don't know. I don't need all that. Wait, what's happening? Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I curate everything and I parse through the voluminous amount of stuff that's out there and basically say, look, in my 25 years of experience, these are the things that work. These are the ways that you would like, let's just cut out the nonsense and make a few small changes. And so in this 12-week program that I have, it's called Stratus Performance Lab, but the fitness company that I started in 2009 is Atomic Total Fitness. And really, Atomic Total Fitness was personal training. That's what it was. It was a personal training studio in Manhattan. I had about 9 trainers that worked underneath me. Everybody was busy. It was a lot of fun. The pandemic crushed it. Just, it was not even legal to meet in person for many, many months. And I still had to pay all that rent. So eventually it just was like, okay, cut bait, move on with life. So, um, what I had been working on in 2019, leading up to the pandemic, was this idea of how can we deliver more service to more people? Not only our personal training clients, but say, not just a few hundred people, but say thousands of people. How can we provide something that's packageable and saleable? And yes, it is an opportunity to scale up and have a bigger business and everything like that. But ultimately, it was, the problem is when you're doing personal training, you're seeing people one on one, and it takes up a lot of time. And so I always say, there's 168 hours in the week. I'm seeing you for 2, maybe 3 sessions a week. But if I see you 2 sessions a week, what are you doing with the other 166 hours? And here's people that are spending thousands of dollars to get into shape, and they're getting into shape, but are they having a dramatic transformation? And I would say, no, some do, some don't. A lot of people, they get fit, they're strong, they can work out. That's great. They could do 20 mountain climbers where before they did 5 and they threw up, you know what I mean? They fell on the floor and passed out, and couldn't handle it. And now they have this greater work capacity and they're able to do so many other things. We've done a good thing for them. They got their money's worth. However, I think somewhere in there, there's a little bit of like, I didn't have the gusto to take take it all the way to the finish line, you know? So it's like got in shape, lost a little weight, got some muscle tone, but I'm not, I don't, I still don't look the way I wanted to look in the mirror. And I spent all that money and all that time and it didn't quite work out. And I've never had anybody say that this is a problem. I think everybody understands like there are these other 166 hours in the week, and two high quality training sessions just isn't enough to, push back the tide of all the calories that are available out there and the lack of activity that's out there. So I was building this thing. Can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was some other, transformation program name, or maybe it was the Atomic Transformation Program or something like that back in 2019. And the pandemic occurred and we just weren't set up to launch it. And it just didn't, it kind of just everything kind of fell apart.
Mhm.
And so for the past, 5 years, I've continued to do personal training and have my, loyal clients and things like that. And I actually went into a couple other industries, tried out other avenues of employment. I tried working for some people. Turns out I'm not employable.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm right here with you. I tried, but I was like, no, it's not.
yeah, I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I, did stand up comedy and ran my own fitness studio in New York. Like, truthfully, I would rather go like down the tubes, chasing my dreams than sell my soul and just for a paycheck. So, um, for better or for worse, that's the destiny I'm taking. But now with this Stratus Performance Lab, I've gotten, 5 more years of experience under my belt. I've worked in other industries. I worked in spine surgery, in medical device. I was in spine surgery. I was in the OR. I did 200 spine surgeries in 2 years. Not me personally, but I was in there with the surgeons, assisting the
Oh, I
surgeons.
was gonna say, wait a second. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I did a few spine surgeries. I did learn how to do spine surgery on cadavers, which is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But just not my thing. Really was too much time. It was just one of those soul sucking careers that you just basically gave all your time away. You didn't see your kids. It was just kind of sad. I actually, I mean, there's a little bit, I feel bad for people that have jobs that take so much from them that they get nothing left at the end, just the money. It was all for the career. They don't have great relationships with their kids or their spouse because it's all about the job. So, anyway, that was not for me. And then, I did some financial services as well. I live in the Northeast, so the financial services are like ubiquitous here. But I thought, oh, what if I could pair this with fitness and I could make this like health, wealth concept of where people would not only extend their lifespan, but they would also then, have financial planning that would go along with that. And kind of a cool concept. Everybody always nodded and agreed whenever I explained it. They're like, "Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that makes sense." And then it comes down to the fact that in order for somebody to transact in financial services, like they have to give you all their personal information, and you need to like, it's like worse than a colonoscopy. Like you need to know everything about that person in order to actually advise them financially. And it just wasn't the right thing. I mean, I think that I have that on the back burner, and maybe that's something that when this performance lab thing is up and running fully, that people will really, there's a possibility for them to gravitate toward that as a higher level service. But I'm not so much worried about that. The performance lab essentially, um, breaks down, and we got on this because we were talking about making little small changes and kind of how are you going to create something or create a behavior and that's going to be transformative for somebody.
Yeah.
So I spend the first 8 weeks of the 12-week transformation program. The first 8 weeks are actually a preparatory phase where you are learning and experimenting with super small changes in behavior. So let's just say one behavior change per week. And it's really not even probably that many. And it probably could be more if the person's really good at, applying the system. But essentially they're going to do one small change per week for 8 weeks. And we're going to find out what works and what doesn't. And then the last 4 weeks, we're then going to use that almost like a 30-day challenge, like a month long challenge. Excuse
Okay.
me. and we're going to put all those layered together. And that's where we kind of go very intense and do that 30-day challenge and have that dramatic transformation where there's noticeable changes in body composition, notable changes in strength. We can look at their sleep metrics. I do all, I actually, it's not required, but it's highly, highly, highly encouraged that they have a health tracker that's either a Whoop or an Aura ring. And I use those because they don't buzz or vibrate or send you any notifications or have a screen or anything like that. They're just like completely innocuous. They just are along for the ride. They're just collecting data and sending it to an app that you can then, interact with on your own time. And so, you're going to get tremendous sleep data. You're going to get your heart rate variability score, which will kind of let you know how well you recovered and how you're dealing with stress and all that kind of stuff. And essentially, by just having data and making these small changes, by the time we get to that month where we're ready to really go hard and go all out, the person's been allowed to make mistakes. They've been allowed to experiment. It's not like you sign up and it's like, okay, we're going hardcore. You got to like figure this out yesterday. It's they have some time to figure it out. Judgment-free zone, it's not about cutting everything out of your diet, but by the time we get to that, 12th week, we're probably going to agree like, okay, it doesn't need to be cold turkey on everything, but maybe we're going to take dairy out just for a month, or maybe we're going to take alcohol out. Wouldn't be a bad idea, just like less, calories, less, sugar, less, effect on the metabolism, whatever it is. We're going to take, of these 8 metrics or 8 factors that we've looked at over the past 2 months, we're going to put the key ones into place, apply those, and allow the kind of the magic to occur.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for explaining all of that, because I was going to ask, what is your new program that you are creating? So thank you for explaining all of that. Where can, if a listener is listening, they're like, oh yeah, that's me. I want in, where could they find, more information about this? Is it on your website?
Yes. So
Okay.
they could go to stratusperformancelab.com, and that's like stratus, like stratosphere, performancelab.com.
Okay.
They can book a call with me. I am in the process of creating a fun questionnaire that'll allow them to essentially get a score in these areas. Like it'll give them a key score on how much they have a personal operating system in place. In other words, do they have all this alignment and things put together that allow them to be very clear in their objectives in their life? Newsflash, most people don't, but it's okay. That's what I'm here for. Then it's also like, how's your mobility? Do you have aches and pains? Newsflash, everybody does. Nobody's perfect, right? So, we're just going to give them kind of some feedback, and that's something I'm happy to talk about. That's like that is going to be, that'll be my, quote unquote lead magnet. That's what will be free. That they can take that little test that should be up in the next week or so. They can take that test, and I'll be happy to give them a 30-minute call and give them feedback on it. And I mean, if they listen to this podcast and they're at this point in the podcast, they should definitely understand I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to like sign somebody up for a program. If they want to do it, then let's fucking go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't, that's the whole thing, is that I have to operate out of like the utmost highest level of integrity and of the desire to do the best thing for the person, meet them where they are and do the best thing for them in that moment. And if I could help somebody in a 30-minute conversation just get some clarity on some things, then like I'm doing cartwheels, I'm
Right.
pumped,
I'm right
you
there with
know.
you. Yeah.
And if they want to sign up and they feel like there's some value in what I have to offer, this 12-week program is not expensive. I'm not gonna say what it is because it'll probably be outdated in a few weeks.
Right. You'll have all these people sign up and you're like, wow,
Yeah,
I shouldn't have said that. Yep.
yeah,
No.
exactly. But well, yeah, I mean, look, good problem to have, but at the same time, it's like the way that I'm doing it right now is I would rather have more people in and have the barrier to entry be lower, meaning the barrier to entry being the financial aspect of it. Um, because it is something that is brand new and it's something that I've been working on for essentially 25 years, and it's something that I 1000% believe in. Like, this is what I'm doing. Um, so to have people come in, learn about it, I think if you learn about the way that I'm doing it and the amount of data and the amount of tracking that we have and the way that it's small incremental behaviors stacked on top of each other to create kind of exponential improvement, it's like nobody's doing that,
Right. They're
you
doing
know?
change your life in 30 days or, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and we're gonna leverage all that thing. So anyway, yeah, they can go to stratusperformancelab.com.
Okay.
And they could also find me at atomictotalfitness.com. Like, that's my legacy personal training brand. Ultimately, I would just like to connect with people. Um, and they can do the same. They could, if they want to do the Instagram or YouTube thing, it's, Adam Shuty, ADAMSHUTY on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook, and Atomic Total Fitness on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And make sure all of those links for the listeners, or if you're even watching this over on YouTube, they will all be in the show notes or the description box. And thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom with us. And the listeners, make sure that you go check out his free his free test, or I should say his survey, not test. It's not a test. Survey will
Not
also
homework.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, will also be in the description box wherever you're listening or watching this as well. And if you are craving more alignment in your energy or business or purpose, I invite you inside the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, my community for spiritual entrepreneurs rising into their next chapter. You can also find those links below in the description box. And go find me on Instagram or any other social media platform under the Mermaid Light. Thank you again, Adam, so much for being here. And I am looking forward to seeing everybody next week. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And I will see you next week.